Karen Allen. Let's go now to Simon Cockerell. He's the general manager of Koryo Tours, one of the companies affected by the ban. He joins us from Beijing. What exactly have you been told?
Hi. Several hours ago, we were informed by the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang that a US travel ban on US citizens was going to be introduced on the 27th of July that would come into effect 30 days later. And we were asked to notify all of our customers, all of the American tourists who travel with us about this, and refer them to the US State Department travel warning, which we already do, actually, and that this was a real thing. That it had been expected and anticipated, but suddenly it's a real thing.
And did the Swedish embassy, which represents America, I think, in Pyongyang, did they say it was in retaliation to the death or the imprisonment, certainly, of Otto Warmbier, who was sentenced to 15 years?
They didn't say that, but I think that the there's been a travel ban proposed in the US Congress, and that, I think, is pretty explicitly in response to that incident. So I think it can be inferred.
And Otto Warmbier, I think, travelled with the other company which takes US citizens to North Korea, or hitherto has done in the past. Is that right?
Well, there are many travel companies that take people to North Korea. There are good ones and not so good ones, but he didn't travel with us. He
didn't travel with you. What sort of impact is this going to have? I mean, how many people do you take each year, and how effective will this be, do you think, in the damage or the loss of revenue that will come to North Korea?
In a given year these days, something around 4,000 to 5,000 Western people go to North Korea. This is not including the Chinese market, which is several times bigger. In terms of financial damage to North Korea, it's infinitesimal, nothing, because the tourism is not a big revenue earner for them. So financially it means nothing for their state. In terms of people who work in tourism who work in the tourism-related industries, then yeah, it will affect them, because American tourists make up about 20% of the Western tourists who go. So several hundred up to maybe, at a peak, 1,000 American tourists in a year, and that market obviously is about to be extinguished.
But obviously, I mean, you've got a slightly sort of complicated response to this, presumably, because it's going to cost you money in terms of business. But do you think something like this is necessary, symbolically, to actually do towards North Korea?
Well, I mean, we're a travel company, not a political organization. So in terms of what it means symbolically and what the purpose of it is, that is up to those bringing in this law, this rule, and enforcing it. Obviously, it affects us because it's 20% of our business, but we are pro-engagement, human-level engagement, and the fact is that the average North Korean has no exposure to foreigners, has no exposure to outside media, and their information about foreigners comes entirely from their state media, which is relentlessly and horribly negative about foreigners, especially Americans. And there are some North Koreans, some hundreds, some thousands of North Koreans who have the opportunity to interact, sometimes on a deep level, sometimes on a shallow level, with foreigners and with Americans, and they may learn from those interactions incrementally over time that foreigners are not how their government tells them they are, that there's a plethora of different personalities, lifestyles, and so on in the outside world, and they may learn to question the narratives that they're fed. From 30 days after July 27th, their entire exposure to what Americans are like will come from their national media, which is not accurate and which is not fair to Americans. So it's not soft power, let's say. It's unfortunate, and we take the position that it's not the best way forward. But we're not the US government, so it's not for us to decide.
OK. Simon Cockerell, thanks very much indeed for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you.